Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to tackle one of the toughest challenges facing American defense strategy: what to do about its massive network of military bases all over the world. Okay, let's just jump right into the core of the problem. It's this high-stakes balancing act, right? How do you stay ready to respond to a crisis anywhere, anytime, when you know that the very bases that let you do that are now giant targets for some seriously sophisticated weapons? And to really get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number. As of 2021, the United States has military facilities at about 750 different sites outside its own borders. That's spread across roughly 80 different countries. And the cost? Well, the price tag to keep all of this running is around $55 billion every single year. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's a huge slice of the entire U.S. defense budget, and it's just for maintaining this global footprint.
So all of this, it boils down to one huge fundamental trade-off. On one side, you have incredible responsiveness, the ability to act fast when something happens. But on the other side, every single one of those bases is a potential weak spot, a point of vulnerability in what's becoming a much more dangerous world.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll really unpack this dilemma. Then, we'll take a look back to see how America went from this isolated nation to a global superpower. We'll explore the new technologies that are completely rewriting the rules, check out our options for the future, and, of course, get into the messy politics of it all. And finally, we'll ask what this all means for America's role in the world going forward. All right, first up, let's really frame the core problem as it stands today. You can think of it as a classic case of risk versus reward, but it's being played out on a global stage with real-world military hardware and people's lives on the line. Okay, so how did we even get here? I mean, this massive global network of bases, it wasn't always the American way. Far from it, actually. You know, for more than a century, America's founders basically preached a gospel of isolationism. They looked at the map, saw these two giant oceans, and thought, that's our best defense. They were constantly warning against getting tangled up in other people's conflicts. But things change, right? And this timeline really shows how that Fortress America idea just got shattered over time. The Spanish-American War gave the U.S. its first overseas spots. But the real game changer, the moment everything flipped, was Pearl Harbor in 1941. That led to this massive global expansion. And here's the really weird part. After the Cold War, we cut the number of facilities way down, but the number of countries we're in has actually doubled. Okay, so that brings us to today. Because that historical setup, this whole network built for a different era, well, it's being turned on its head by a revolution in military technology. The old playbook just doesn't work anymore. This right here, this shows you the complete 180-degree flip in military thinking. For decades, the whole strategy was built around these forward bases being safe springboards for our power. Now, those springboards have a giant bullseye painted on them. And look, our own tech is taking a massive leap forward too. We've got new platforms like the B-21 bomber, which is designed to hit targets from thousands of miles away. This completely changes the math on where our forces actually need to be to get the job done. But here's the other side of that coin. Our rivals are building their own long-range missiles, including hypersonic weapons that move so fast they're almost impossible to shoot down. They're creating what the pros call denial bubbles, basically giant keep-out zones where our expensive carriers and forward bases are more at risk than ever before. You know, this whole problem, it's not actually new. Let's go back to 1951 for a minute. An analyst named Albert Wohlstetter gets handed what sounds like a really boring assignment. Just figure out the cheapest place to park our nuclear bombers. And his conclusion? It's the exact same trade-off we're wrestling with today. Wohlstetter figured out that keeping bombers on forward bases basically made them sitting ducks for a Soviet sneak attack. So, by pulling them back home to the U.S. mainland, he made them way safer, which preserved our ability to strike back, even if it meant a slower response time. It's a great lesson. Sometimes, taking a step back is the smartest way to stay in the game. So what do we do? Given these new rules, what are the actual options on the table? I mean, how do you project power when sitting still makes you a target? A lot of this boils down to a classic choice. Do we stick with permanent bases on land, or do we go for mobile power at sea, like aircraft carriers? Now, land bases are fantastic for politics and making our allies feel secure, but they're stuck in one place. Sea bases can move, which makes them way harder to hit, but they've got their own huge logistical headaches and are definitely not invincible. So the Pentagon's answer isn't just to pack up and go home, it's to adapt. And the strategy really comes down to three key ideas: harden, disperse, and disguise. Harden the bases with better defenses. Disperse your forces across a bunch of smaller spots so there's no single easy target. And disguise what you're doing to keep the other side guessing. But look, this isn't just a spreadsheet problem of missiles and miles. There's a huge human and political side to this that might be even more complicated. And this is where things get really interesting. Kind of paradoxical, actually. For our allies, seeing a vulnerable American base is a powerful symbol. It shows that we have skin in the game, that American lives are on the line, which makes our security promises feel very, very real. Our risk becomes their reassurance. But you gotta flip that around and look at it from their perspective, right? Hosting our forces puts these countries under enormous pressure. They can face angry protests at home, and they get leaned on hard by countries like Russia or China, who see these bases as a provocation. It essentially puts them on the front line of any future conflict. Okay, let's bring this all home and look at how this entire way of thinking, this idea of forward bases versus rear bases, might just be about to become obsolete. I mean, really let this sink in. Within the next decade, we could see conventional, non-nuclear weapons that can fly from one continent to another. That means a base in Kansas could be just as much of a target as a base in Japan. The oceans that used to protect us, technology is making them strategically irrelevant. It's erasing geography. So that leaves us with this massive, game-changing question. When every base is a forward base, when there's no safe place to hide, does geography even matter anymore? And what kind of unstable, unpredictable world does that create for all of us? Answering that, well, that's the dilemma that's going to define global security for years to come.